This is Ethan Griggs with round 6 of the 70s versus the 90s. This round we have Mike Nichols, The Graduate, versus Steven Soderbergh's Sex, Lies, and Videotape. And this was a hard one because these are definitely two iconic films for the time that they came out, and especially The Graduate. The Graduate was a huge landmark film, even won Mike Nichols the Best Director Oscar at the Academy Awards. But as a landmark film, honestly, there's three things that this film has going for it. It's got a great fucking soundtrack by Simon and Garfunkel. The camera work and the editing are just on point, phenomenal. And we'll throw a fourth one. This is the film that basically made Dustin Hoffman. But, it's one of those movies, it's just like, yeah, sure, I can string a bunch of visually stimulating images and throw a badass soundtrack over it and call it an iconic movie. And there's great moments in it. There's definitely iconic moments of, the whole situation is you got Benjamin Braddock. He just graduates from college and, he doesn't know what the fuck to do with his life, as most people do when they graduate college. And so now ends up fucking his neighbor's fucking wife with Mrs. Robinson, and, which is also the partner of his law firm that his father's in and shit. So it's a real weird situation to be in, but who doesn't want to bang a hot cougar MILF, so you can't really fault him for that. But where you can fault Benjamin Braddock is when he starts to fucking go for the daughter, Elaine, it was just like, bro, you could have just sat through that fucking awkward ass dinner party and stayed fucking this cougar MILF instead of you have one. Or you could have went on just a really shitty date and, instead of just really making sure you made her have a bad time and then you feel bad and then you end up falling in love. But this whole falling in love, great lovers, they had one goddamn date and then this dude's stalking her and shit, and if he'd have just been up front with her from the start, this is how fucking your mom, she might have got over it if he was honest with her, but he wanted to fucking bullshit around until shit blew up in his fucking face, and then he wants to act like a stalker, and then she, what kind of dumb bitch is this to come back to him and shit, it's just, the whole movie makes no fucking sense. The ending is a pile of shit, it's like, fuck, you, all this fucking trouble, and then in the end, it's like, oh, what the fuck am I gonna do with it now? You're rushing to be like your fucking parents, which in a way, it's like some kind of fuck you to the youth generation from this New York hipster named Mike Nichols, it's just, but goddamn Simon and Garfunkel. Who doesn't love that fucking soundtrack? So this is an iconic landmark film. Now, the landmark part is the fact that this film at the time was talking about sex in American cinema in a way that it had not been talked about before. And it did pretty much what Alfie did for the English, The Graduate did for Americans. But it still, just doesn't hold up by today's standards because it's so... And in a way, it could be a time thing. It could be, maybe I just don't understand the mentality of that time. You're trying to not be your parents, but at the same time rushing to be your parents, It's like you could have just stayed banging the fucking cougar MILF and ran off with her. It's like the weirdest shit in the world. Like it's like fucking test driving the manufacturer before you bought the fucking car. It's just weird fucking shit. But this movie is like beloved for some fucking reason. I guess because it gave the world Dustin Hoffman, but Mike Nichols is one of the most overrated directors of all time. Like, it's just, this movie is fucking dog shit. I hate it every time I fucking watch it, but it did, just like Bonnie and Clyde, it did kickstart a new wave of cinema, which was called the New Hollywood, which is what we know now as 70s cinema. And it did usher in a more mature filmmaking. But it also goes to show that clearly Elaine May was the one writing all the good shit for that duo, because her film, The Heartbreak Kid, is way better than this pile of shit. But then we fast forward to the 80s with Steven Soderbergh's Sex, Lies, and Videotape. So just imagine if Elaine and Benjamin did actually end up getting married, in that bus or whatever the fuck. And, they had a kid. That kid would be James Spader in Sex, Lies, and Videotape. The only difference is he realizes his own bullshit. And that's the one thing that Benjamin Braddock couldn't understand. There's not millions of other bitches you could have fucked, in LA or where the fuck you're at. And then just you focus on the one chick whose mother you were fucking. It's ridiculous. But the beauty of Spader in Sex, Lies, and Videotape, even the opening of Sex Lives, you kind of feel a graduate vibe, because Soderbergh even more so than Tarantino almost is a guy just stuck in the 70s style of filmmaking, which is what those guys grew up on. So naturally, that's why the 90s is the 70s part two. You got these cats that grew up with this cinema basically atoning for the sins that the ones that came before. And this is basically what Sex, Lies, and Videotape is. It's fucking The Graduate if it wasn't on some bullshit, and more of a defining moment than anything else, because where the masturbating impotent James Spader, he can only like get off by watching women talk about sex. Man, that's most of these fucking incels now. Like, so this movie's still holds up to this fucking day. And the beauty of Sex, Lies, and Videotape is like the one that fucking gets it all fucked up is Peter Gallagher's character. He's the one character that's not honest to himself, true to himself. And you got Andie MacDowell and James Spader in the film. They're both sexually repressed characters, and they come together to form a more, they are better for each other than all their other bullshit. And it's a beautiful ending. The movie actually has an ending. Everything works out, and you got the lovely Laura San Giacomo too, which is Andie MacDowell's sister in the film, and who also Andie MacDowell's husband, played by Peter Gallagher, is fucking the sister, but Spader ends up coming out on top because he's honest with himself. He's honest about his dishonesty and his impotence and everything, and and it's more real. That's why the 90s are gonna get this round, because it's more complete movie. The thing about The Graduate, and what also with Sex, Lies, and Videotape, you can clearly tell the directors identify with their characters, because James Spader is basically a cinematic extension of Soderbergh. If you look at the whole thing, there's even a little director's chair that he sits in while he's videotaping these women, and clearly Mike Nichols relates to the Dustin Hoffman character in The Graduate, which he took from the book and made it more like him and modeled it more to Dustin Hoffman to get all of his neuroses out that he wasn't able to get out on the screen before. And so it's one of those things. It's like a statement with nothing to say. Whereas Sex, Lies, and Videotape, it's got a lot to say. It's fucking erotic. It's fucking, and honestly, no more sexually explicit than The Graduate. You don't see tits. You don't see bush. It's all of the sex is done. But honestly, the talking is more sexy than anything else. And that's another thing about The Graduate. It's so clever in itself. It's so hung up on its concept that it doesn't know how to fucking speak eloquently. It's almost like, well, we'll just let the actions speak for themselves. And it's like, whereas Sex, Lies, and Videotape, it's way more titillating, because you're charged by like what these characters don't say and what they do say. And it's like, I don't even know how to explain it. It's just, there's an electric charge that Sex, Lies, and Videotape bring, which, it's just more electric than you get with The Graduate. Because the thing about Sex, Lies is it doesn't have to rely on a badass soundtrack. It doesn't, the cinematography is great, but it's not as like, I'm not sitting there talking about the cinematography right out of the gate when I'm talking about Sex, Lies, Videotape. Whereas The Graduate, like I said, if you're talking up the cinematography, it's a shitty fucking movie. So here's the thing, where The Graduate is iconic, not a great movie. Doesn't hold up today, in my opinion. Sex, Lies, and Videotape, that movie resonates more today than people would probably like to admit. There's more James Spaders out there than anything else. Because, face it, the fucking Benjamin Braddocks, they fucking sold out and had a bunch of fucking grams. The James Spader character in Sex, Lies, and Videotape. And that's why we're in what we're in now. So, the 90s get this round. The 90s are up 4-2. So, it's looking like the 90s may be the better decade. 70s probably more iconic, but that's just because we made it that way. So who knows? This is beginning to be an eye-opening experience. It's, one of those things. You never expect it. But this round goes to Sex, Lies, and Videotape. Mainly also gives a great ending. Everything works out. And you're not left with this, well, what the fuck do I do now? Well, why the fuck even make the damn movie? There's that kind of attitude that I guess was in the 60s, but it's just not, that ushered in the 70s. It's just not, you gotta have a point to it. It's like those fucking ambiguous endings. Have a fucking point to it instead of just, you just end up like your fucking parents. bullshit. That's more of a jerk fest than Spader watching his fucking videos. But who knows? Like I said, if I've said anything wrong in these videos, something you don't agree with, feel free to eviscerate me in the comments. I don't give a shit. I'll reply to all of them. This is just a personal journey of mine. I'm sweating bullets because I'm just so enamored with this shit. You know, it's passionate, fiery, all that fucking shit. Love cinema. And the next round going to be even more exciting because it's going to be The Last Detail versus Chasers. So we'll see how that goes. But right now, the 90s are up 4-2. I'm excited. How about you?